Today, we welcome you to the Asian American Pacific Islander Awareness Month, where the month of May we celebrate and honor and remember all of the contributions of everyone here today and also for those who have come before us. We thank Mrs. Florence Fang for hosting this special event. Titled Remember and Reinvigorate. And we thank the Asian Art Museum for allowing us to use this amazing place and also for being the launch pad for this Fang Family Launchpad exhibition that will serve as a permanent platform for emerging Asian artists in exhibiting their artwork to the world. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome and honor Ms. Florence Fang, former owner-publisher of the San Francisco Examiner, chairwoman of the Florence Fang Family Foundation, a current trustee with Peking University, and a current board member of the George H.W. Bush Foundation for U.S.-China relations, amongst many, many other things that she has done and is involved with. Mrs. Fang.
Thank you. My good friend, Stewart Bong. Thank you very much. And welcome. And thanks everybody for coming to today's event. Today's event is going to honor Asian American Pacific Islanders, their contribution, their achievement in the United States of America. America is a nation of immigrants. People from all over the world have come into the America seeking for a better life. That including Asian American Pacific Islanders. And this month, in America, we call Asian American Pacific Islanders Heritage Month. Since the early 1800s, Asians already has been a part of America's history. We have contributed to all kinds of fields. You know, as most as known, the people know, the Chinese immigrants has helped to build transnational railroad that connect the east and the coast of America. At the end, it made American economic growth, and now America is the world's biggest economic and the world's strongest powerhouse. And in May 1990, the former president, George H.W. Bush, has signed a law that the bill is extending the AAPS Heritage Week into AAPS Heritage Month. I'm very proud I'm one of the delegates in that celebration. 2 years later, White House and Asian communities will hold a president dinners. We call it Tell the Story About One Asian Stories. I'm very honored to be one of the speakers, share the same stage with President Bush to tell my own, to tell everybody my own Asian American story. And the last month, President Biden administration has acknowledged AAPI community is one core chapters of American story. However, our contribution, our achievement until now still not yet fully recognized. And since it became worse, here has growing backwards has a growing anti-Asian, hate Asian sentiment. Therefore, I, just like a lot of you, have very strong feelings to act, to do something, to correct this wrong negative trend. That is why I'm here to holding this event. And after that, I'm very, very grateful. I got all kind of support from people from the different background, from the federal to the local, from the government to the business, from the big organizations to the individuals. Especially, I got big support from AAPI's community. That is really encouraging me. I'm going to hold the same events every year, May, in the United States, to continue the next generation, remember our spirit and our role in American story. And today is the National Museum Day. So I'd like to use the opportunity to thank Asian Art Museum. And Asian Art Museum is a national, international treasure. There are outstanding collections about Asian art and make everybody feel proud. For further discovery and the celebration for AAPI's heritage, and Asian Art Museum is having a official grand opening ribbon cutting for family launchpad. That launchpad is just located right across this hall to the other side of Lodging. And right now, the launchpad, the purpose is to provide a public platform for all this emerging and modern Asian artists to show the talents there. Right now, we have 2 exhibitions. One is called Collect Letters. That is by Shanghai-born artist. Meaning is combined West and East. Another one is called The House of My House and My Home, and it's by a Iranian American artist. And he got this expression from Taj Mahal. And I hope this launchpad can serve as one of many bridges to connect the different communities, different countries, to aim for mutual understanding, mutual cooperation. At the end, I like to say, I am immigrant. I am Asian American. I am living American dream. Just like the Vice President, Kamala Harris, she is the first time being elected Black Asian woman American. She said, America's dream belongs to all of us. So don't give up, keep forward, and thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Fang, for your leadership and standing up and organizing us to speak up and stand up, especially when our community is being harmed. And Stop Asian Hate has really awoken many of us that living in the state of California, we never thought that it would happen again to our community. And so we thank Mrs. Fang for her leadership and bringing us all together and recognizing all of our accomplishments and the fact that we all are Americans. So we have 4 awardees here today. We're gonna bring them back on the stage after when Mayor London Breed joins us, but we're gonna hear from these awardees today. So first is Professor Chen Ming Hu. Professor Hu is Professor Wu is called the father of 3D transistor, right? For developing the FinFET in 1999. Intel hailed FinFET as the most radical shift in semiconductor technology in over 50 years. Modern computers, smartphones, and the internet all ran on 3D transistor processors. So thank you very much for your discoveries and allowing us to have all of this modern technology today. Dr. Wu.
First want to congratulate Madame Fang and the Fang Family Foundation for celebrating the AAPI Heritage Month by holding this event as well as launching the Launchpad exhibition. Florence asked me to tell you why President Obama gave me the National Medal of Technology and Innovation. I agreed to do this as an example of AAPI technologists' contributions to the Bay Area, to this country, and to the world. 20 years ago, the semiconductor industry around the world basically agreed that semiconductors could not be pushed on anymore. Moore's law was stopped. If that was indeed the case, then we would not have smartphones everyone, we would not have the cloud computing, we will not have the free phone calls to anyone, anywhere in the world, and we will not have the teleconferencing, remote work, remote commerce as we utilized to make the pandemic lockdown tolerable. And that's just the problem, small examples of the problems that we would expect the world to have and that need more problem-solving abilities. And I think semiconductor will continue to provide that problem-solving abilities. I'm thinking of the problem of not only the global warming, but also what experts says will happen after that. In 1,500 years from today, the next ice age will start. When that happens, at the depths of it, ice will cover the ocean between Asia and America. We need everyone, including AAPIs, to continue to generate more problem-solving abilities for the world. What I introduced 20 years ago was a way, not just an idea, but a method, a demonstration of how to make these semiconductors three-dimensional. It's just like stop building single-story buildings in San Francisco, turning into multi-stories, eventually growing into skyscrapers. By doing that, semiconductors continue to become smaller and work faster and consume less energy. And you may have noticed not only the phone does more and more over the last 10 years, it actually, battery lasts longer. That's because semiconductors using less energy. It's not just the battery powers more, because battery power turns to heat. That's going to burn you a hole in your pocket if just using bigger battery. Semiconductor is going down. And I believe semiconductor can increase our ability to solving problems by another 100,000 times. So this is an area that I think offers great hope for mankind. And I want to end by congratulating Madame Fang by his choice of celebrating the AAPI Heritage Month at this beautiful venue and combine it with the launching of the Fang Launchpad exhibition. Because I believe that before the ice bridge connects America and Asia, we have to build more and better bridges right now between Asia and America. And what better bridge to build but introduce more Americans to the Asian history, literature, philosophy, and arts. And I was very glad to hear the Florence launching pad idea is going to help emerging Asian artists exhibit their art to the world. And if I may take this opportunity to introduce to you my favorite Asian artist, my son, Raymond Hu.
Hello, hello.
Raymond has a mental handicap, the Down syndrome, and he likes to say that, yes, I have disability, but I also have abilities. That is really good.
Thank you, Raymond, for being an artist and using your talents and sharing it with the world. We have a special guest here today. She is chair of the State Board of Equalization. I consider her my sister because her Chinese name also starts with Ma. So I am a Ma and she is a Ma. And she has been a great leader, served on the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, was president of the board, and now is two-time chair of the State Board of Equalization, my sister, Malia Cohen.
Good morning, everyone. Today is a joyous occasion, and I wanted to acknowledge a woman that I have a tremendous amount of respect for. Miss Florence Fang has been so gracious and so kind. I actually call her Auntie Florence. She is the epitome of what the Asian culture has to offer the entire world. Elegance, beauty, charm, style, and grace. Mrs. Fang, it is a privilege to be here this morning. I want to share with you a few remarks. I have a presentation, this beautiful resolution I'm going to be presenting to Mrs. Florence Fang this morning. There are several whereas clauses. I'm going to read to you just one.
Okay, we're going to go to our second achievement awardee. That is Mr. Kaushik Rajgopal, Vice President of PayPal, Executive Vice President of PayPal, and Chief of Executive Vice President, Chief Human Resources Officer responsible for global workforce planning, talent acquisition and evaluation, compensation benefits, learning and development, as well as culture, diversity, and inclusion initiatives. Kaushik?
Thank you. It's a privilege to be here. And I want to thank Florence Fang Family Foundation for this award. It's a privilege to be part of this set of honorees and to share a few thoughts with all of you today. I came to this country 30 years ago from India, where my parents still live. And I think it's fair to say that my journey here is possible only because of everyone in the Asian American community that came before us. Many years ago, I went to the island in the bay, not Alcatraz, but Angelou Island. And you see the history, as Florence spoke, about the people who first came here from Asia. And the journeys that they took that were so much harder than the journeys that we might take today. And I think one of the great qualities of the Asian American community is resilience. The capacity to face great obstacles, great challenges, and to be successful and pursue what we know and what we think is right, despite those obstacles. And I hope that as a community, that resilience stays with us and with our children to make great contributions, both to our community and to the country more broadly. In addition to resilience, I want to share two other thoughts with inspiration from traditions outside of the Asian American community. The first is from the African American community. One of my favorite poets is Maya Angelou, and she famously observed that in the long run, people will forget what you said. They will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And at the heart of that thought is empathy, which is the capacity to stand in somebody else's shoes, the capacity to look across the diverse tapestry of our Asian American community and say, I realize that we could have been born as each other. And to look beyond the Asian American community and say that we could be standing in someone else's shoes. We could be having your experience. That empathy, I think, is something that could make our community even stronger, even greater. And that's a source of inspiration that has stayed with me for a long time. And the final thought I want to leave with you is about courage. One of my favorite novelists is Victor Hugo, and I'm going to translate from memory, imperfectly from the French. In Les Miserables, he says, to dare, progress comes at this price. The dawn dares when it rises. To strive, to brave all risks, to persist, to persevere, to be faithful to oneself and what is right. At one time to confront unjust power, at another to fight drunken triumph, to hold fast, to hold hard. Such is the example that nations need and the light that electrifies them. And that courage is something that I think we need. I think back to the 6 words in the opening video that really struck a chord with me. We belong here. We are Americans. And when we experience discrimination and hate, it is important for us to respond with courage, with those words both in our minds and in our hearts. Thank you again for the chance to share these thoughts. Thank you for the privilege of this award. I look forward to continue working with the Florence Fang Family Foundation. One of the things I do outside of PayPal is chair the Bay Area Council, which is a group of employers across the Bay Area that advocates for greater civic engagement, support for affordable housing, transportation, and other things that make this region a better place for all of us. And I hope to continue to partner across the Asian American community to further those goals. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your inspirational speech and all the courage that you also display every day as a leader in our high-tech community. I also wanted to recognize Mr. Jim Wonderman. He was supposed to be my co-MC today. He is head of the Bay Area Council. Unfortunately, he's a little under the weather, so it's just me today. Okay, our next contribution award is to Ms. Connie Young Yu, Chinese railroad workers, descendant and historian. She is the author of countless articles and 4 books, and has devoted her energies for more than a quarter of a century in rediscovering a history of Chinese and Asian America that has, for the most part, been forgotten, overlooked, and even hidden. Ms. Connie Yu.
This has been such an inspiring, actually a huge change in my soul just to be here. I am so grateful to Florence Fang and her foundation for all she has done for AAPI Month and our history and our heritage, and for launching a new project, and for this momentous event, which is already overwhelming me. I am so inspired by the words of Kaisek Rajagopal. You know, you've already brought my sensibilities, and also to Dr. Chen Ming Hu and his son, who inspire me and motivate me to go further. So I'm very, very grateful. And to all of you honored guests for this, I just feel this encouragement and inspiration. You know, the message of this day is to remember and reinvigorate. This is a great message because we cannot go forward unless we look back. It is by knowing the truth of our history in America and that we stand on the shoulders of our ancestors. This is what will make us better and stronger. Asian Americans, in fact, all people of color, do not feel history in the same way as white Americans. We never learned about the experiences and contributions of our ancestors in school textbooks. Our history is from stories our parents and grandparents have told us of their struggles, hardships, and battles lost and won. And for the longest while, no one wanted to hear them but us. But now, because of the work of Florence Fang and her foundation and so many of the people here, we are relevant. AAPI Month is national. In San Francisco, it is permanent all year round. So this is indeed a celebration. I always knew my great-grandfather helped build the Transcontinental Railroad, the Iron Road, because my mother, his granddaughter, told me. Even though I never learned about Chinese contributions to California and public schools, I felt a pride. We Chinese have a stake in this country. The Transcontinental Railroad was the quintessential American enterprise, the greatest engineering feat of the 19th century, uniting the country, and we were part of that, building that. Our ancestors helped to build that. So I have been researching and documenting the story of Chinese workers building the Transcontinental for over 50 years. Ever since the centennial commemoration in 1969, when I wrote my first published article, The Unsung Heroes of the Golden Spike, that was published in the San Francisco Examiner, that later became owned by Florence Fang. At the national celebration in Utah, Promontory, Utah, my parents attended. They were so proud to go. My mother would be the only descendant of a Chinese railroad worker there. This was 1969. But the Chinese builders of the Central Pacific were not even mentioned at the ceremony. They were deliberately excluded. Philip Choi, president of the Chinese Historical Society of America in San Francisco, was invited to be on the program and to present a plaque from the community to commemorate the Chinese railroad workers. But at the last minute, he was told, "Oh, sorry, Mr. Choi, there's no time for you." It was an astounding moment. And to add insult to injury, Secretary of Transportation John Volpe gave the keynote speech orating, "Who but Americans could have drilled and blasted through the mountains of the Sierras? Who but Americans could have built 10 miles of track in one day?" The phrase, "who but Americans?" meaning white Americans, of course. This monumental snub launched a movement and galvanized activists of Asian Americans across the country. And the fight for inclusion in the national narrative was launched, and we began to write our own history. So for the next 50 years, a lot of changes took place. Certainly in textbooks, in the curriculum, a different way of approaching history. You could see it in the media. The rise of ethnic studies. And of course, in Sacramento, there was a Chinese railroad workers exhibit in the Railroad Museum that was very prominent, and exhibits across the country that included the contributions of Chinese Americans. And then, 3 years ago, the big moment came. On May 10, 2019, the celebration of the 150 years of the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad. And through organizing by the Chinese Railroad Workers Descendants Association, based in Utah, they brought in Asian Americans from all over the United States to participate. 20,000 people were in attendance. There's a lion dance that opened the ceremony. I gave the commencement speech, and I could feel my ancestors looking down upon me. My last word of my speech was, "Done." The photo of descendants of railroad workers and pioneers were taken by the great documentarian, the late Corky Lee. The Chinese were in the picture at last. The next day, the Chinese Railroad Descendants Association, we had a conference in Salt Lake City, and this was at the gala breakfast. Everybody's spirits were high. We were so excited for what we had accomplished. The president of the association, Judge Michael Kwan, walked up on the stage to cheers. There was an American flag behind him. And then he stood in front of the mic and read a social media post that he had just received. And it began with this: "You Chinese crybabies, don't you forget that white people built this country. And you're joining the colored people in asking something handed to you. So why don't you just go back to where you came from?" That was part of the message he read. There was a moment of stunned silence, but it didn't last. Nothing was going to take away that moment of triumph from us. So we began celebrating the rest of the day with the conference and a dinner. We Asian Americans who journeyed there had put Chinese railroad workers where they belonged in history. But now today, I think of what has happened in this country since then, and the rise of anti-Asian hate, and we know we hadn't even scratched the surface. And this is the truth. There is a deep-rooted nativism in this country that keeps rearing its ugly head. And we've seen it with the continued terrorism toward Black people, which is what we witnessed with horror this past week. So we must go on. We must keep telling the history of awesome achievements by Asians, but also the history of institutionalized racism, the Chinese Exclusion Act that denied Chinese naturalization to citizenship, that kept Chinese and other Asians perpetual aliens, the driving out of Chinese from communities up and down the West Coast, the detentions on Angel Island. Only by grasping this history can we get to the root of today's anti-Asian hate and fight it, and not let up until it is truly done. So I made these, comments. I wrote these comments before I came to this meeting, and I am much more energized, much more inspired by all of you and Florence Fang's work and my fellow honorees, and I feel much happier and ready to work. Thank you so much. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Yu, for documenting all all of the contributions of the Chinese railroad workers. I also see Mr. Stephen Lee in the back. He is the founder of the Chinese Railroad Workers Memorial Project, also dedicated to remembering, recording, and also creating a monument for this generation and others to see and to learn about the contributions of our 15,000 Chinese railroad workers who worked, and many of them did not make it from 1865 to 1869, so thank you, Ms. Hu. And our last contribution awardee is to my good friend, Ted Fang. He's not able to be here today, but Ted, Dr. Sam So, and I started the San Francisco Hep B free campaign back in 2007. Some of you know that hepatitis B disproportionately impacts the Asian American community. My grandmother gave it to my mother at birth, gave it to me at birth, and our message is really to get tested, to know your status, and to take your health into your own hands. And with our educational efforts, perhaps you can save lives or extend people's lives like my mother's, because we caught her cancer, liver cancer early. And to accept this award on behalf of TED is Dr. Stewart Bong. He has been a leader and been with the campaign since inception in 2017 and has spent 18 years as an administrator for the Chinese hospital. Dr. Stewart Bong.
I'm honored and privileged to actually receive this award for Ted Fang as co-founder. But what's important is Ted is a visionary, huh? And now I see where he gets it from. He gets it from his mother. So thank you. Ted, as co-founder of SFHB Free, he's also a leader where he brings together our community to fight. And the SFHB campaign was one of these things that brought our community together. Again, Ted is a visionary. I'd like to also thank our treasurer, Fiona Ma. When we started SFHB Free, it was because liver cancer was a big issue in San Francisco. And so we made it a point to become the first city in the United States to be hepatitis B free. 6% of the population in the United States is Asian, but Asians carry 50% of the burden of chronic hepatitis B. So this is why we have SFHB Free. Again, it's the greatest Asian health disparity in the United States. And around the globe, hepatitis B is one of the chronic diseases that goes untreated. And so we have to fight this disease worldwide. We are part of the WHO, which is the World Health Organization. They have a strategy plan to eliminate hepatitis B by 2030. This is throughout the world. We're on the right track. We're getting there. I'm not sure we'll be able to meet the goal by 2030, but we're still going to continue to fight. All of this would not have happened without Ted and Fiona. And even Mrs. Fang was there in the beginning to promote SFHB because it is a community disease and we need to fight for our community. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fong. And our next speaker is Catherine New, California Director of CARE at the Department of Justice. And CARE stands for the Office of Community Awareness, Response, and Engagement. She joins the Attorney General's office with over 15 years of diverse experience in management, specializing in policy, advocacy, program development for governmental and nonprofit organizations. Thank you, Ms. New.
Thank you so much, Treasurer Ma, for that very kind introduction, and thank you to Mrs. Florence Fang for the honor to be here today and the Florence Fang Family Foundation. It is an incredible honor to also be here to celebrate the honorees. I am honored to be here today to represent Attorney General Rob Bonta. The Attorney General is grateful for the efforts of the Florence Fang Family Foundation and your efforts to uplift the Asian American and Pacific Islander communities here in San Francisco. I speak on behalf of him when I say that at the California Department of Justice, we are pleased to celebrate this Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month with you. Asian American and Pacific Islander history, including recent history, is American history, and it's wonderful to be here to affirm this today. For all of us in the AAPI community, the last 2 years has been extremely difficult. As Attorney General Bonta says, AAPI community hasn't only been hit by a pandemic of COVID-19, AAPI Americans have been hit by a pandemic of hate. In 2020, anti-Asian hate crime events increased by 107% in our state. At the California Department of Justice, we find this unacceptable. Attorney General Bonta's top priority is protecting public safety, and that includes our AAPI communities. And that's why the Attorney General has established the Racial Justice Bureau. He has issued new guidance and resources to help the public and law enforcement. He has also urged prosecutors across the state to establish specialized hate crime units and launched CARE, my office, our Office of Community Awareness, Response, and Engagement. Whether it's a celebration like today or a community vigil when tragedy strikes, at the California Department of Justice, we are here for you. Our CARE office is here for you. The Attorney General is here for you. Because in California, we celebrate our diverse communities, we celebrate our history, our impact, and our contributions. This pandemic has taught us many lessons, including that we are at our best when we stand united, not divided. Thank you again for this opportunity to join you, and on behalf of the Attorney General, the California Department of Justice is honored to be with you here today to celebrate the launch of this exhibition and to celebrate AAPI Heritage Month. Thank you.
Presentations and statements. The first, let's welcome Mr. Paul Pelosi Jr., representing U.S. Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and of course, himself. He is illustrious, we all know him, Mr. Paul Pelosi.
Thank you everybody for coming out today to celebrate Florence. And thank you to our state treasurer, Fiona. You know, Fiona and I were both born in New York City, back in, well, quite a while ago. But we felt very welcome and we're thriving here in California. And that's in part because of people like Florence, who brought in people from other states, other countries, and made everybody feel welcome. Amir, I'm sure, will be here tonight. The Warriors are opening up, and Amir's a very big basketball fan, so I'm not surprised. She has probably a ritual in preparation. Cheerleaders gave her a uniform. So she's all equipped for tonight. So we're celebrating the Warriors in sports, food, museums, and things that bring people together. 104,000 museums globally, but that's just the internal ones. And these are great places like this one, bring people together to talk about the past, the present. But they're a little, all times, a little boring, and so you have to look towards the future. And so that's really what we're trying to do. Florence does that by creating her outdoor museum at the Flintstones out in the way. If you look at 280, you'll see her outdoor museum at the Flintstone House, which brings together all the elements of the history of dinosaurs, space, and happiness. And that's really what Florence represents. She's been a great family friend, and feel that we're a close family for quite a while. Time of more cooperation, 1990, I was when James welcomed President George Bush to the restaurant. We were also in attendance. And so Florence has brought people together for a long time. Democrat, Republican, didn't matter. It was quite an event in the 90s, and when Florence took over the Examiner and Asia Week, and really has spread the word through the media, through the museums, bringing people together, whether it be dedications of the war, China-U.S. cooperation during the World Wars, sharing of culture, and so that's why when you look at these achievement awards that are being handed out today, it's very special. And I think that this is the beginning. I thank Florence for including me in what's going to be a great celebration. Amongst very close with Florence that is safe for a long, long time. And many iterations, whether it be outdoor entertainment, museums, whether it be gardening and food, and it's had a lot of sports. So these are the things that we kind of find some agreement on at times when things are very diverse. I'm prepared a statement, which I'll put into the record. She's documenting the long history of cooperation with not only China, but all of the Asian communities. There's been situations here with Asian hate crimes and other burglaries and gun violence, and it's not something we can give a pass to. We can't just let people take a pass, and we can't let people rewrite the history and pretend it didn't happen. These white supremacists and others will lose traction as we meet in these museums and we bring together a community spirit. And so together we're stronger, and in these environments which are calm, these buildings, it's very soothing, where you can relax, be comfortable, share with one another, and have that silence where you can listen to your internal rage and work together. And so that's really what Florence has done, whether it be writing, entertaining, or her creations herself. She's really brought families and communities together. It's been a joy to watch her. And I think that this next chapter with these awards will really heighten really community spirit, bringing people together, making us all feel welcome in California, as we look forward to celebrating the moments going forward and celebrating the human experience together. And it's that kindness that she brings and shares with everybody in the room. And I want to thank everybody for coming out to support Florence. As I said, my mom Florence go back a long way, and she wishes she was here. Over the weekend, she led a delegation to Ellis Island in New York. I mean, it's just special when you remember these things, and you look at the Statue of Liberty, and you think about people coming together in these kind of gentle places, and the museums and stuff seem to be the place of the good marketplace for starting these, whether it be one of the formal museums at today's International Museum Day, so we think about it, but I think we think about it in an expanded definition to include all types of human expression that allows people to see the world and to see the way it is. And the other thing it reminds us of is that human civilization has a 100% survival rate. So despite all these things that happen, the proof that we're still here today is we have 100% survived all of these situations, and we thrive and grow together, and that will continue through these times we challenge to face today because of the kindness, and Florence represents that kindness and that bringing together. And, you know, she has, her and her family have represented all types of diverse groups for a long time by, as I say, through that spirit, that kindness, through food, and other ways of expressing yourselves. And we're going to bring this together. So I'm thankful for including. I wish my mom was here to say she put a statement in supporting this movement and looking forward to the achievements and listening to the people coming forward as we expand the awards going forward. And I think that we're all encouraged to think about our community and think about who might be a recipient for next year, with a bias towards the younger people, of course, and to carry on Florence's tradition. Thank you, Florence, and good luck.
I love your suit. Looking very dapper. Okay, the next speaker is Dr. Yahweh Liu, representing the Carter Center.
I'm Yahweh Liu. I'm Chinese. I'm American. I'm Chinese American. I'm a proud member of the AAPI community. I'm here to represent the CEO, President Carter, Mrs. Carter, and the CEO of the Carter Center to read a letter of greeting. But before I do that, I just want to share a few thoughts of my standing here today with all proud members of the AAPI community. You know, some of the shocks I have experienced when I was in China, as well as the shocks I experienced here in America. So the first shock I had is I was flabbergasted on December the 16th, 1978. I was a freshman in college when I heard among the PA that U.S.-China are going to normalize relationship effective January the 1st, 1979. Because we grew up being told that this is the evil country that we're all going to bury eventually. How come that the two countries, President Carter and the Vice President Deng Xiaoping, made the decision, a momentous decision, to normalize the relationship between the two countries. My second shock, again experienced in China, is in 1887, I was admitted by the University of Hawaii to be a graduate student, because I thought I had a physical disability. I was almost denied admission into the college in China, that I feared of applying to American University because I thought I'm not going to be able to pass that physical, but I was admitted. The third time I was shocked is actually in 1989. I was admitted by Emory University to pursue a doctorate degree in American history, and I got the fellowship from Woodruff, who happens to be the chairman of the board of Coca-Cola. You know, I never imagined a Coca-Cola company could support, you know, foreign and American students to pursue a higher degree in academics. And starting from that point, I quit drinking Pepsi or any other soft drinks, because Coca-Cola is the one that made all the difference. And of course, I was shocked, you know, last year that, you know, Asian women were murdered brutally in Atlanta, and that really launched, you know, this nationwide campaign for all of us, you know, to unite, you know, to remember, to invigorate. Second to the final shot is on New Year's Eve, Christopher Wray, you know, FBI director, in a speech at the Ronald Reagan Library in Silicon Valley, California, said exactly the same thing he said in 2019 when China Initiative was introduced. You know, I quote, you know, basically every 12 hours, you know, FBI opened a case of espionage perpetrated by Chinese Americans or Americans of Chinese descent or visiting scholars and students from the United States. And he continued the same wording even after China Initiative name was dropped, you know, in a recent interview with CBS 48 Hours, without justification, without presentation of any cases. And my final shock is that I was invited by Madame Fang, you know, to stand here. You know, this is the city. 173 years ago, Chinese 49ers came over here to mine for gold. And of course, they were denied the opportunity to mine for gold. The same place, 40 years later, after that is the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, you know, originated from here. You know, to be able to speak in this very place, you know, to share my thoughts with you, that's really a shock to me, but I'm also proud. So now I'm going to read this letter from Paige Alexander, the CEO of Carter Center. So here is the letter. On behalf of the Carter Center, I'm writing to congratulate you on the Remember and Reinvigorate event and the opening of the Florence Fang Family Foundation Launchpad at the Asian Art Museum in San Francisco. President and Mrs. Carter send their regards to you and all those attending this meeting to celebrate contributions of Asian Americans to society. 43 years ago, President Jimmy Carter and Vice Premier Deng Xiaoping made the decision to normalize the relationship between the U.S. and China. That decision has benefited both countries and millions of Chinese Americans in this country. You know, I'm one of those. We appreciate your contribution to the improvement of mutual understanding between the two peoples and your dedicated effort to protect the rights of Chinese Americans. It is the conviction of President Carter and the Carter Center that a stable and mutually beneficial relationship between the U.S. and China is the anchor for peace and prosperity for the two countries and welfare for the two peoples. With best wishes for the success of your event, sincerely, Paige Alexander, Chief Executive Officer at Carter Center. So lastly, I want to echo what Kosik and Paul said earlier, is that, you know, this inaugural award ceremony is not going to be a one-off, so it will continue year after year, so that we're all remember what Caustic said earlier, the 6 powerful words. You know, we belong here. We are Americans. So I would like all of you to join me in applauding Madame Fang in celebrating her achievement, you know, her realization of her American dream, for her organizing this event, and also encouraging her to continue the award ceremony so that we are remembering and we are reinvigorated yearly that we belong here, we're all Americans.
Thank you, Dr. Liu. Next, we are going to welcome Peter Kuo, representing the Bush China Foundation, to make a few remarks. Thank you, Peter.
大家好，方律师你好。My name is Peter Kuo, I'm the Vice Chairman of the California Republican Party. It's with great honor I will be reading a letter from David Firestein, the President of the George H.W. Bush Foundation for U.S.-China Relations. But before I do that, I'd like to share a story with you. On July 1st, 1982, I came to this country, landed in San Francisco without speaking a word of English. And as my uncle Chen drove me by this house on Blackstone Road, right off 280, and I pointed to the house. Wow, that's a very interesting house. And I remember it brought joy to my heart. Just as Mr. Rajagopal has said, it's not how you make people think, it's how you make them feel. And I feel happy at that time. And as time goes on, if you tell me that today I'll be standing in front of the most prominent leaders in San Francisco, as well as throughout the state of California, representing several presidents, knowing that I had married a gal from Indonesia and I was a missionary to Japan in 1989, it just brought me so much joy to know that Ms. Florence Fang has done all this for us in the years before my arrival, and millions of others before my arrival. So with that, 谢谢您. Thank you. And this is a letter from President and CEO of George H.W. Bush Foundation, Mr. David Firestein. Dear Florence, the George H.W. Bush Foundation for U.S.-China Relations applaud the Florence Fang Family Foundation on hosting of this event. Remember and reinvigorate a celebration of Asian American Pacific Islanders, AAPI Heritage Month. The Bush China Foundation strongly supports the cause of recognizing the merit and profound contribution to the American life made over many years by the AAPI community. 30 years ago, President George H.W. Bush signed into the law a bill that extended AAPI Heritage Week into a full month. And on May 29th, 1992, you shared the stage with President Bush and delivered remarks at the AAPI Heritage event in Los Angeles entitled An American Story. As President George H.W. Bush wrote for your biography, America is a tale of immigrants who came to this land to build nations and better their lives. The Florence Fang story is yet another chapter in the American experience. Her pursuit and fulfillment of the American dream reminded us that the America is truly the land of opportunity. The Fang Family Launchpad exhibit at the Asian Art Museum here in San Francisco is a vivid example of a platform that served as a bridge between communities in a cause of furthering mutual understanding. Once again, Florence, congratulations on this important event. Your community leadership and your steadfast commitment of building bridges of understanding and friendship. Our nation is stronger for those efforts. Thank you so much. And on behalf of the California Republican Party, I'd like to present this certificate of congratulations.
Can we do that? We're going to take a picture after with all the presentations from Ms. Fang. So thank you, Peter. You can put it over there, and I'll come back up. Without further ado, the Honorable London Breed, Mayor of the City and County of San Francisco. She has made history as the first African-American woman mayor here, and only the second woman as mayor in San Francisco. Born and raised here, served on the San Francisco Board of Supervisors as their president, but more importantly, a close friend of the Fang family. Mayor.
Thank you so much, Fiona. It really is an honor to be here to celebrate APA Heritage Month in San Francisco, but also to really recognize an extraordinary woman who has been doing amazing things in this city and in this country and in the world for decades. And I want to take it back just a little bit to remember, because today is about remember and reinvigorate. I remember when I first had the opportunity to meet Florence Fang in person. At the time, her family were owners of a number of our newspapers, including the Examiner here in San Francisco. And we were talking about bringing a group of these incredible dancers to San Francisco. You remember that? And we were looking at places in Treasure Island for them to stay. Now, you could have easily delegated that task to someone else, but it was very personal to you. You wanted to introduce, you know, the genre of the dance technique that these incredible dancers did to the people here in San Francisco, underwriting the entire cost of making that happen. Because of your support for the arts, I am not surprised that the Launchpad exhibit, which we are highlighting today, is a part of your legacy as well in providing new and emerging artists of Asian descent to be seen at a place like the Asian Art Museum, to have their work exhibited at such an extraordinary location. We know that Florence Fang is not only a big supporter of the arts, but she truly believes in education and uplifting people as a whole. And I have the pleasure of going to China, to Beijing in particular, at Beijing University, where because of her contributions and the support for a program that helps to pay for people who come from America to learn Mandarin at Beijing University, to develop that cross-cultural relationship, a building was named in her honor, and I had the pleasure of being there and hearing about all the wonderful things that she has done for young people there and young people here in the United States to further their education and to further their bilingual ability. We know that during this global pandemic, there have been a number of challenges. And when I think about the history in this country of what the Asian community in particular has endured, I can't help but think of how blessed we are that people like Florence Fang are there to help build those bridges and deal with those challenges. 80 years of Japanese community being in internment camps, 140 years since the Chinese Exclusionary Act, and just recently in our country's history, recognizing people of Chinese descent who actually were very instrumental in World War II in helping to defend this country. So much history and so much need to bring those things to light. And as this pandemic occurred, further challenges that exist with the API hate that really tried to not only destroy this community, but destroy the cross-cultural bridges that all of us are trying to build to bring our communities together. Florence Fang has been doing that bridge building for so many years. And I want to appreciate the work that you do with the farm and the Bayview, the work that you do to bring communities together, specifically the African American community and the Chinese community here in San Francisco. The investments you make, but more importantly, the consistency in your advocacy to provide opportunities in the arts, in gardening, in so education in so many global causes. You are the embodiment of what it means to be truly a leader in these fields, and also just the consistency of your life and making sure that you're dedicated to these things and teaching those same values to your kids and to people throughout your family has been really extraordinary. And I appreciate it more than ever, because we need more than ever to come together, to show support for one another, to uplift one another. The conversations can't just happen when there's a problem. The conversation has to continue to happen. The education around the history of the challenges need to be brought to the forefront so that we don't continue to repeat the same mistakes of the past. Florence Fang understands that. And that's why she invests her resources and her time into making these incredible things happen. And so I wanted to come here to thank you for all of your work and all of your advocacy. And just, you know, there's a whole laundry list of things that I could talk about today, but I just wanted to highlight those few things just to express this has been over an extended period of more than 30 years of investment, of support, of telling the stories, of educating people, of bringing communities together. A wonderful, wonderful legacy. And so today I'm honored to be here on behalf of the City and County of San Francisco to recognize you, Ms. Florence Fang, for your work, your advocacy, and for your love of bringing people together to do extraordinary things. Thank you, and at this time I'd ask you to come up and accept this honor on behalf of the city. Let's give another round of applause for Ms. Florence.
We're going to have you both stay up there. We're going to ask the awardees to please come up. We're going to do the awards presentation now. So Dr. Hu, Professor Hu, Cosmic Rajgopal, Connie Young Liu, and Dr. Stewart Bong. Speakers to please come up. Matthew Del Lau, Zara Haji, David Vanish, Naomi Hu, Anders Fung, and Mayor Lily May. Thank you to the awardees. Thank you, Mayor, for honoring us with your presence. And next we have Matthew Del Lau representing California Governor Gavin Newsom and California Lieutenant Governor Eleni Kounalakis.
Good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure to do double duty today to present both a letter from the governor and a letter from the lieutenant governor. But before I do, I feel like so many of you who have come up here to speak, compelled to share a bit about my own story. My grandfather came from the Philippines with $5 in his pocket, gave 2 of them to a friend that he met on the ship, and proceeded to build a life in Stockton, picking asparagus, started a family, eventually bought a house, truly the California and the American dream. And then this is particularly, I'm particularly honored to speak at this event too, because my father went on to become an artist himself and studied at San Jose State and then Sac State and worked with many of California's leading artists during the 1960s and 1970s. And so I can't think of an event that would make me more proud as someone who is from the AAPI community and the son of an artist than to be here presenting these two letters today. So thank you, Mrs. Fang, for all of your contributions to our communities and for lifting up our communities and lifting up the artists who tell their stories. So I'm going to start with the letter from the Lieutenant Governor. She says, "Dear Mrs. Fang, thank you for the opportunity to participate in the Florence Fang Family Foundation special event, Remember and Reinvigorate, at the Asian Art Museum in San Francisco. I can think of no better way to commemorate Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month than to reflect upon the innumerable contributions made to the United States of America and to California by those who trace their heritage to Asia. Likewise, it is necessary that we recommit ourselves in this special month to acknowledging and addressing the challenges still faced by those of Asian ancestry. From the earliest days of California statehood, immigrants from China and elsewhere in Asia, their descendants and more recent arrivals have left their mark on the cultural, economic, political, legal, and geographic landscape of our Golden State. From the days of railroads, small laundries, restaurants, and shops, to the modern era of manufacturing, innovation, creativity, academic excellence, and the financial leadership, we all see in all facets of our society the important influence of Chinese and other Asian American citizens. But those contributions have not been made without a cost. Along with these impressive accomplishments, anti-Asian sentiment has also been present since the beginning, and sadly still remains with us today. Indeed, anti-Asian racism and discrimination was even once institutionalized in the laws of our nation and state. There remains a constant daily battle to counter and move beyond those dark vestiges of our past. We must continue to strive for a more just and equitable society for all. We must not tolerate acts of hate or violence directed at our Asian American brothers and sisters. We must act together with a sense of unity and purpose to preserve, to protect, and to improve upon our wonderful and welcoming, diverse, and tolerant society. I also wish to congratulate you and the Asian Art Museum on the grand opening of the Fang Family Launchpad platform, which will give promising Asian American artists an opportunity to display their works to the general public in one of this country's preeminent institutions showcasing Asian-inspired art from the most ancient times to the present. With warm regards, Ambassador Lenny Kanalakis, Lieutenant Governor of California.
Perfect, thank you so much.
Hi everybody, my name is Zara Haji, and although Senator Padilla wishes he could be here today, I am truly honored to be here on his behalf and celebrate with you all. On a personal note, I also just want to give a huge thank you to Chairwoman Florence Fang for ensuring that young Asian Americans like me can have a better future. So thank you so much for that.
Speakers today, and many of my colleagues, elected officials, business leaders, political leaders, we don't need to repeat everything that they said because we agree with all of them. But just kind of take all of that in perspective today. All of you are here today. We've got many political leaders and business leaders. We all got important things to do. But we're here today because you know one thing, is that we're committed. We're committed to ensure that there is diversity and inclusivity in our society. Because as an Asian American, we need to stand together and continue to be a champion for our community. So this is one thing that I want to thank Florence today for all your work, for all your dedication, lifelong dedication to our community. So I want to be relatively brief today. On behalf of the city, where 53% of our population is Asian American, I want to thank you for everything that you have done, everything that you continue to do, and continue to be a champion for all of us. Thank you so very much.
Also, I would like to issue official apology for unjust for Chinese laborers who are working and living in the beautiful Salon 150 years ago. They work here, they live here, some died. Few of them have the Chinese name. All immigrants listed as a Zhang Chinaman, Zhang Chinaman, Zhang Chinaman. But they are still the great leader. We honor them. Even they couldn't find a place to be buried, simply because to honor them, the contributions. These are the nameless Chinese laborers. They never got a chance, went back to hometown, and also their spirit couldn't find a place to be buried. Thank you again, Madame Le Fang. You are the hero, you are a role model. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Now, during the pandemic, we also installed the other piece that is on the right. It's by the Iranian-American artist Angelou. And her work takes inspiration from Taj Mahal in India and honor her Persian heritage with this manipulation of mathematics and precision and filled with the light. Again, this is a piece that is by the Iranian-American artist Angelou, and we're very proud to celebrate these Asian and Asian American voices with you. This is a time that we do need to step up and be visible. And we need to be visible politically, socially, and also artistically. So thank you, Mrs. Fang, and also your family for your generous support. And we hope you appreciate this piece, take photos, and bring your friends to come to the Asian Art Museum as we continue to celebrate these times. Thank you so much.
Okay, enough. Okay. Yeah, keep looking. Yeah. Professor Wu, yeah, pick one. Pick one, yeah. Angela, you pick the second one. Pick the second one. Yeah, yeah. Move to your side. Okay, good. Enough. Yeah.